In the words of Al Pacino, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Here we are, episode 37. It's the retrospective episode of FPL BlackBox. How are you, Mr. Mark Sutherland?
I'm okay. Not too. I feel a bit rough, actually. I've got to admit, as the day's gone on, I'm feeling rougher and rougher. But hopefully, it's nothing serious. I'm sure I'm fine. It's just a cold cook off the kids. But you might have to carry me a little bit. Yeah, I know. I've just noticed also there's a little bit of untidiness in the images, so I'm just going to correct that just for a second. Because the OCD in me just won't let that. There we go. That's fixed now. So there we go. Go back to where we were. There we go. That's fixed. Yes. So I feel a bit under the weather, but I'm gonna do my best to raise my game for this one, because it is quite a nice, relaxed, hopefully, episode. Looking back, we'll briefly look back at last week, which seems ages ago, doesn't it? It was only 7 days ago that the season came to an end, and yet it seems an age already. I've enjoyed the break so far. We're going to look back on that, but mainly we're going to look back at our own seasons. We'll probably do a bit more of this over the summer as well, and certainly before next season we'll go into a bit more detail. But we'll have a skirt through our seasons using some of the tools that are out there in the community, and there are absolutely loads. I know you're going to love it, aren't you? There are loads of tools out there, and there's 5 that I'm using. I've used so far, and that is Live FPL, FPL Optimised, FPL Retro, FPL Review and FPL Guru. 5 tools that I've used for tonight's show to gather some bits and pieces to look at our season. And then if we've time, I'm also going to look at the best players from last season, top 10s or top 20s for all the positions, and we can talk a little bit about any players we fancy going into the next campaign, which will be interesting too if we have time. But it's going to be a bit indulgent the first part, but bear with us, because there'll be I can dig out as a few more times. Yeah,
I need all the lessons and help I can get after this year. Oh, it's been painful. I need to stop beating myself up too much about it. Like, it's not been a complete disaster. I mean, I had to look back at some of our old episodes, and I was like 750k at one point, and you were like 6,000. So at least I closed the gap to a relatively respectable level, but it's still not where I really want to be, but it's not completely terrible.
And it looked like you were going to make the 100k quite comfortably at one point.
That's what was disappointing. Yeah,
I get it.
Mane.
I get it.
Sadio Mane.
Well, we'll look at that. I mean, let's go back just 7 days, as I said, and look at Sunday's outcomes. Yeah, it was a bit of a non-event for you, wasn't it, in the end? I mean, you went with the captaincy on Rafinha, rolled the dice with that, and it didn't come off, basically. That in a nutshell, that was it. That was the crux of it, wasn't it? Because the difference between me and my Gameweek and yours was just the captaincy, really.
Yeah, and, I was the big thing for me was this Elite 64 battle that I had going on, and on paper, my team looked good. I think the guy I was against, he got in Mane, didn't captain him, went for Salah, but then had 2 no-shows with Bamford on the bench and Greenwood. So I was immediately thinking, I'm definitely going to win this. And it was all looking good right up until about the 75th minute. And then Mane got the second goal. Bamford came off the bench and scored, and it all just turned as it so often does. And I needed points from like Lingard and Antonio. Leeds lost the clean sheet, which meant I lost the 2 points from Rafinha and Harrison as well as the Dallas points too. So that was really disappointing. And then, I could have done Son to Mane and captained him and rolled on it. But like I said on the Q&A last week, I just didn't feel that comfortable with it. And it's those fine margins, isn't it? Like, if I'd done that, I don't think it would have been enough to take me. Would it have been enough to take me 200k if I'd got in Mane and captained him? Yeah, maybe. 20 points or something.
Can I just stop? Can I just stop you there, because I've made a faux pas and haven't been recording the audio, and I've only just started it. So we've got 2 options now. 1, we don't do a podcast, or 2, we start all over again. What do you want to do?
Podcast. Let's not do a podcast.
Let's not bother putting it out as a podcast. No. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Fair enough. Yeah, sorry, I'm not. As I say, I'm not on it at all tonight. I'm really. Yeah, so we're recording now, but I mean, maybe we can put sections of it out as audio. I don't know. Let's crack on. Yeah, I mean, it was just the captaincy, really, wasn't it? I mean, Holding got you a clean sheet, which was what you were hoping for from him, because you didn't really have much on the bench. You weren't going to want to call on Cody. Lindelof wasn't going to play a Coulson.
I think this week just kind of sums up a lot of weeks for me this season. Just meh. Like, I didn't lose any grounds. I was about 134,000 before the season started. I went for it with what I thought was a good captaincy shout. No Bamford, double lead midfield. Kind of thought I had all the things in place to kind of push a bit, and then just ended up with like a 2k red arrow, and down to 135 points. So I literally went down 1,000 places, which I thought I'd either go down to like 160, 170, or push up to the top 100. So it was just a bit boring in the end, but it was an exciting final day. I did enjoy it.
Oh
but
yeah.
Mane.
That's what did for me in the end. I went up to my highest rank of the season, which is what I finished on 2061, thanks to the Mane captaincy. It wasn't enough to beat Andy. I was on the live stream with him, but he beat me by 13 points. And had he gone Mane captain, he would have made it into the top 1k, which he was wringing his hands about. I was obviously really pleased with the outcome of that. Salah got a blank, and Mane came in, which is what I hoped for. I didn't make the top 2k, which is annoying. And also, as we're going to see in a moment, I lost to Fabio in the Great and the Good League, and the difference between myself and Fabio was just 3 points. And had I captained Antonio in 37, which was obviously something you ribbed me about, I would have beaten him and won the Great and the Good League. And for those who didn't realise, I was long planning to captain Antonio over Salah in Gameweek 37. Didn't do it. Salah blanked at Burnley, and Antonio got a goal, of course.
It never ceases to amaze me that so many times these kind of battles and things come down to 1 or 2 or 3 points, and you're talking thousands of points over a season. I remember I won a mini league a few years ago. I won quite a lot of money. I won about £600-700, I think, on the final day, because they took Vardy's bonus point off him.
Wow.
And had he not had that point taken off, I think we would have drawn, or I think I might even have lost on transfers made or something like that. But yeah, he lost the game updated. I thought we'd drawn, and then 10 minutes later it updated again, and he'd lost the bonus, and I won the league by 1 point. So all these points matter. You think throughout a season, I've benched 4 points, it doesn't matter, blah blah blah, but they do.
Yeah, and I guess at this point we should say congratulations to Michael Kuhn, who won the FBL on the final day. Absolutely. And it was very much nail biting for him as well. He also went with the Mane captain, which won it for him in the end. But the Hal Robson-Kanu goal at Leeds also was crucial. And like you say, it's these small margins that make all the difference at the top of mini
Andy's
league.
in the chat, by the way.
Andy's there,
just so you know, Andy, we don't actually take super chats during the main pod, so
no, he's just trying to rib you about a certain Chelsea player there.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm fuming about that.
Yeah, we will talk about it because he will come up in what we say. Just briefly touch on our histories. A lot of people have put their histories up online. I haven't done that, but I will say that it is my 7th best season overall.
I don't understand how that can be your 7th best season. You finished 2K.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny actually. I've only just realised looking at this that all my top 10k finishes are in the top 5k. I haven't got any top 10k finishes outside the top 5k. So 2017, 11,000.
I'm not going to put my rank history up, but here it is on the pod.
I only realised when I sorted it, I was like, hold on. So all my top 10k are actually 5k. I haven't got any in the top 10k under.
Do you remember the first one we ever did where you couldn't remember how many top 1k finishes you had?
I didn't look at it. But for you, it's your 12th best season. So again, 7th and 12th, not amazing seasons by any means.
Yeah, but it's my worst season since I started playing properly. Like if you look at the years, around this rank, so 2007, 2009, 2011, 2008, that was kind of before I really got into, I was always kind of around Scout a little bit, but it was before I kind of really got into the dress. So since I've been playing seriously, I've finished in the top 100k every season. It was funny, someone I put my rank history up as a bit of indulgence, and my favourite comment was, Az, your season history isn't actually that bad. I thought you were just a banter account. Oh,
wow,
cheers,
who was that? was that Zoff as well?
Yeah, probably.
No, it's fun. I mean, the thing is, you see, you've got seasons where you didn't play it seriously, whereas I started in 2006-07, and I definitely can't say I didn't take it seriously because I was
taking it seriously, but not to the level of obsession that
yeah,
it
but
is.
There's a lot of people in the community who have 3 or 4 seasons where it's like, okay, I was just trying it out, and that's fair enough. I totally get that. I never did, which is why my career looks probably better because from the very start I took it really seriously. So I don't have any really low ranks in the early days because I was right on it, basically intensely involved. My low ranks just came later.
If you weren't getting good ranks in the early days, then I don't know who bloody was.
Well, it was easier, wasn't it? It was fewer players as well. So again, that helps make my early days look better, doesn't it? Anyway, I'll get my ranks off the screen.
We don't want information from everyone.
What, in those days?
Scout.
No, not at all.
Yeah, just keep that a little bit for me.
We don't want to leave those ranks up on screen for too long. Maybe another 25 minutes or so. Should we just talk for No. Let's look at the great for the good league. This is the pain of losing to Fabio by 3 points. Fabio, of course, top of the Hall of Fame. It's no disgrace to be losing to him. Fantastic FPL manager, of course, the best according to the Scout.
He is.
Hall
Well,
of Fame.
he is.
Yeah,
I do believe he is.
Yeah, he's,
unfortunately, are definitely up there, but Fabio is.
Yeah, he's played fewer seasons than me, but almost every season has been fantastic. Whereas I've had a couple of duds, so it's the way I go. He didn't have a good final day. I almost caught him because he lost some rank and I gained quite a lot. And again, lost to him by the 3 points, and so painful. I didn't really realise because I moved on from the Antonio captaincy. I was like, it's only 6 points. That doesn't matter. And then it dawned on me about a few hours afterwards that I'd lost the great and the good league by 3 points. I'm like, oh no!
I'm quite happy that happened. In a sadistic kind of way.
Yeah, I thought
you deserved that.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, it was painful, but it's fair enough. Fabio deserves it. Magnus couldn't catch me, so I held on to second. You're down third from bottom. Does that mean it's relegation? Have you been saved? Have you got together with Greyhead?
No, I've sent Greyhead a nice bouquet of flowers and some chocolates, and he's actually expanding the league next year.
Oh, I see.
People.
I see.
So
a bit of a Super League scenario, is it? You've managed to.
Yeah. So I've
no relegation for Az. I see.
But I mean, I overtook Villaronca. So we talk about good FPL managers. I mean, I actually overtook Villaronca on the final day. He had the worst week in the great and the good.
Yeah.
Him and I have been battling out kind of for ages near the bottom. I've got to give a shout out to Joe though. Joe finishing again in the top 100k. Never finished outside the top 100k.
Yep.
In his long season, and even with a red arrow on the final day. So, well played, Joe.
Yep. He's got that consistency of never. I mean, I've got 2 seasons that were well outside the top 100k, so it's really hard to maintain that. So, very well played. So let's move on from that and start looking at some analysis of our seasons. This is livefpl.net, Ragaboli's site, which surely you know about by now. If you don't know about this, then you need to get involved and get on that site. And also, I would urge you to save your stats, your season stats with Ragaboli, because what you get out of that is fantastic. And this is some of the data that we got out of that. So don't wait for that, because sooner or later the data is going to disappear. So get in now, get on livefpl.net, get your season saved, because it is really valuable to look back at your season and do some analysis, which is what we're going to do. And perhaps what I hope with this show is it gives you some idea of what you could do with your own team, look how you could look at it and what analysis you could do of your season based on some of the stuff that we're doing.
It's not all, this is the thing, it's not all just hindsight. Because I posted something, there was another thing I posted which a load of people jump on, just about Game Week 1 team and just trying to learn some lessons from what I did in Game Week 1. And the amount of people being like, oh, it's just hindsight, they didn't perform, it's obviously, but it's no, because it's not just the outcome. There was players I put in my team, Game Week 1, decisions I made and process I went through that I do every year. It's the third year in a row I've had a bad start. I've got to learn from things like that.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely going to be looking at Game Week 1 in the pre-season. I'm going to get all the data of the top 10 managers and look at their Game Week 1 and what they did. And compare it to what we did. I've had a quick look, and we won't go into it in this show, but it is really important to get a good start. I think, when I look at the average rank of the final top 10, when you look at the average rank that they had by Game Week 2 or 3, I bet they're all in the top, at least the top 40, 50,000. And that's, and that's kind of where you need to be at that point if you're going to push.
I think we did one in one episode, didn't we? And I think there was only one of the top. Was it the top 50 or something we looked at? And only one was outside the top million after 10 or 15 game weeks.
Well, we'll do
Those
that.
Stats might be something like that.
But we'll do that exact analysis in the pre-season. For now, just a quick comparison between myself, your team, and Michael Kuhn's team. And the thing that immediately leaps out, obviously points. Transfers, you made 48, I made 44. Michael made 42. Hits, 56 points in hits for you. to do more than me is quite an achievement because I'm normally hit crazy, aren't I? But I mean, have you got any comment about that?
Well, the thing is, like, I know the easy take from this is to be like, more hits means you do worse. But you've also got to remember that I spent a long time doing worse. So my team was worse than like yours. So I had to take more hits because I had to kind of try and get my team to a better place. Whereas people in the higher like echelons of the game have players in place, so need to take less hits. So I've never been too much of a fan of being like, okay, so if you take less hits, you'll do better, because I find it a bit hard to make that conclusion. At the same time, I did take too many hits, so there's definitely a bit of it, and there's definitely times when I could have saved. I think, you know, and I do say this every year, but because I'm playing the Elite Syrian game, and it's weird because I don't know any of the Norwegian players at all. But what I'm trying to do with that is just be a bit different and save the transfer and then use 2 each week, and just because it just gives you so much more flexibility. And I say it every year, having those 2 transfers, even if you take a hit with it, means you can shake things up so much more. So I do need to try and be a bit more patient, but I'm a very impulsive FPL manager, and I like to move quickly on things. And I think sometimes that probably is to my detriment, but
it's interesting playing Elite 7 because you can try some things out with that, because the game translates almost directly to FPL, doesn't it? So it's a good, not a bad idea to experiment in that. See,
it is difficult not knowing how good any of the teams are, or any of the players.
You're basically like FPL Apprentice in that respect, aren't you?
Yeah, it feels like it.
I just want to go back to the Great and the Good League, see how your number of hits compares to everybody else. You didn't take the most in the league. Obviously, Late Riser really went for it to try and push up his rank with 108 points of hits. General took 60. Sean Tobin took 64. So you're in good company, really good company in terms of the number. I think generally there were more hits taken this season across the board. I mean, the lowest in the Great and the Good League was Tom Freeman, 28. So that's quite a high number. If we go back as well to compare to Michael Kuhn, who won the FPL, he took 36 points in hits. So that's quite a lot for the winner. We'll look at the top 10 another time.
Josh last year didn't take any, did he?
I don't think he took many. I think one of the strategies
it was
that he outlined,
very few or none. But the trick is getting the right. Yeah, that's the thing. I think this year felt like a particularly like reactionary season. Like you wanted to move quickly from different players. There was players like off form quite a lot, coming back on form as players you wanted to jump on quite quickly. So I think a lot of managers were moving. It's the most reactionary season I've had. Never really feeling happy with my team, no matter how it was set up. I can't think of many weeks when I actually thought, I'm going to have a really good week this week.
Well, I'm partial to a hit. I don't necessarily look at my total and think I'm going to change next season. I mean, that's kind of probably about average for me, that number of hits. But we'll see. Most captained, we all went Salah. I went Salah 13 times, you 11, Michael 11. Most points, Salah across the board, apart from Michael, who absolutely got the best out of Harry Kane. And Harry Kane's a player we're going to look at a bit later on, and how he treated us. It's quite interesting. He was his player with the most points relative to the top 10k. This is Ragabolly's stat, basically. It's basically total gain versus the top 10k.
Is that just getting him early and captaining him everywhere?
Yeah, and 109.39 for Michael on Kane. Myself, it's Alexander Arnold, 92.03, and you, Salah, 67.28. The rank killer for you was Harry Kane. He did the most damage to you relative to the top 10.
I was a long time before I got him in. I remember. Do you remember the wildcard stream we did?
Well, I'm going to show you where he got him in here. Look, there you go. This is from FPLOptimize.com, another brilliant site we're going to use tonight. And there, the top diagram shows when you got him in. You got him in Gameweek 7.
Gameweek 7.
I got him in 6. But we both of us missed that huge spike in hauls at the start of the season from game weeks 1 to 5, where Kane was on fire. We both missed out on that. And so from that point, we were quite similar in the way we adopted Kane. We both got him in for 18, then got rid again, then got him for the run in, effectively. But he really murdered us in that opening part, didn't he?
He did, and it was another this is the thing. I remember watching that first game, Spurs v Everton, and just thinking there is absolutely no way Spurs are going to have a good season this year. Like, Mourinho's not going to last. He's alienated Dele Alli after the first game. Like, I just looked at him and just thought there's nothing good about them. And then the next game he gets 20 something points, and I was still stubborn. I was like, nope, that's just a freak like appearance. Then the next game he gets, I think he got like an assist or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, there we go. Now he's kind of regressed back to, and then he just went absolutely mad again for like so.
2 16-point hauls. Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to know when to back yourself and when to not, because he was getting bought by so many people, and it was the same with Calvert-Lewin as well. I mean, I didn't bring him in, missed his hat trick against West Brom on game week 2. I went for like Martial instead. The first few weeks I lost I lost so many points, 30, 40 points just. But then equally, I didn't think Calvert-Lewin was going to do that well this year, and I didn't think Spurs were going to do that well this year. So should I have just backed against myself and just got them in because they were being bought in? Is the start of the season the time when you kind of need to be a little bit more template and be a bit more, because it's the points, it's the prices as well, isn't it?
Mm.
That's the thing, because Calvert-Lewin's price just went up and up and up.
He was massive bandwagon,
yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, going back to the live FPL data, and if we go down to, look at my rank killer, it's Son. So similarly, a Spurs player, total loss versus a top 10k, 70.2 points. Huge losses for me. More than your one for Kane. So we both fell victim to the Spurs situation. If you look at my ownership of Son compared to yours, you got Son pretty well. I mean, you got him in game week 5 and captained him. You missed the haul at Southampton. You missed a haul in game week 4 as well. You got him in after that, and you did okay with him. He did well for you. For me, though, I also got him in game week 5 and captained him. Got rid mid-season. Got him back at the end, perhaps a bit prematurely. Got a couple of hauls out of him. But generally, Son, again, it was early season and mid-season where I didn't have him, where he did quite a lot of damage to me. And I think I look at the early season with Kane and Son as probably missing out on those points. Not having either of them was a disaster for me. And I think I fell foul of the narrative going into the season that Spurs, I didn't think they'd have a bad season, but I didn't think they'd be an attacking force, because I had bought into this, Mourinho negative football thing.
But it was right.
Well,
it was right. They, you take away the first 6 games of the season, and they were pretty poor for a lot of matches.
Yeah.
The narrative was right over the season. If you think about it as a season, they had a pretty poor campaign. They often struggled to break teams down, and Son and Kane carried them more than I thought they would this year. I don't know. I don't know. I just think that those first few weeks were just such a freak. Like that 20 points for Kane and Son. I mean, Son, 4 goals and Kane 4 assists or something. Like, it's just, I just don't know how you can legislate for that. It was just nuts. It's just Southampton.
Well, but it was just the kind of relationship between Kane and Son just flourished in those early game weeks, and it did continue, and I found it hard to believe. And I think I've said before that I sometimes weave a narrative and then convince myself that's correct. And I guess in my case, I looked at Son and Kane and thought, well, that can't. There's no way they're going to carry on linking up. I also thought teams would stop it, and they didn't. Do you remember? Week after week, we were seeing Kane dropping deep and putting Son in behind the defence, and it seemed like opposition couldn't do anything to stop it. And that's what surprised me as well.
I think you said that after game week 2. You were like, well, there's no way they're going to let Kane just, do that again. And then game week 3, he didn't do that well. And then game week 4, 5 and 6, the team was just letting him do whatever he wanted again.
Yeah. And it was weird because I remember
it was really strange.
Distinctly at half-time, Son scored the goal right on the stroke of half-time against Southampton. I think they were 2-1 down Spurs. And you saw Kane and Son get together as they walked off on the pitch. And you could almost see them going, right, we'll just keep doing that. And then they came out second half and they just kept doing that, and it worked every time. And it's like painful, absolutely painful if you didn't have either of them. And a lot of people sold Son, didn't they, going into game week 2 as well?
Because they were going. Well, that's similar because I sold Danny Ings because the plan for me, and this is the thing though. Like I do think game week 1, I was so convinced on getting a United player in for that Crystal Palace game. I ignored all the lack of pre-season, all of just everything. I was like, right, I've got to get a Man U player in. So I sold Ings, who then went on and smashed it. I ignored Spurs because I thought they probably weren't going to carry on. I mean, I remember saying on the pod, if I had Son, I'd sell him for Rashford without a second thought. So there's another bit of good advice for people listening. And I think Rashford got nothing and Son got 4 goals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we can learn from this. Obviously, we'll do a lot more of that in the summer. We're not going to dwell on that now. But we have got to re-examine that Kane and Son episode and how we missed it and how we can try and not fall into that trap again. It's certainly a lesson to be learned. I want to go back to the great and the good because there was a third table which Greyhead gave me for tonight's show, which was really, really interesting, which was enabled me to look at how effectively we played our chips. And one of the lessons I've got from this season straight away is
I beat you out.
Yeah, I didn't play my chips effectively. So what I've done here in this table is what Gray has given us is the game week that everyone in our league played their chips, the score they got out of their bench boost, the score they got out of their triple captain, the score they got with their free hit, and the difference between that score and the average score that week. So that kind of measures the effectiveness of the free hit. And I've combined those 3 totals to find that Tom Freeman actually had, showed the most effective use of his chips, scoring 125 for that. Whereas I'm third from bottom on 49 and you're just above me on 56. So both of us in the bottom half of the table. Clearly, from this, that idea that I need to be better with my chips next season is borne out, isn't it? There's not much in it between at the bottom. It's me, Sean Tobin and Joe. All 3 of us have miserable chips, basically, and you're not much better. I mean, did you take that? I mean, is that a take you had anyway, or does this is this news to you?
The free hit one's quite hard to judge because I set my team. If you looked at like the difference of my team compared to my team before, I was like 50 points better off. I had about 2 players in that game, so it wouldn't just be how I used the chip in that week. I'd also have to analyse how I set my team up going into the free hit and the decisions I made, because maybe it would have been better just to avoid it and then go for it. But I still felt like a blank game week that kind of early on, I still think that was the right time to play it. And I could have done better with the actual chip. So I don't know about that. I mean, the triple captain I see is just something to have a little bit of fun with. I mean, you got some fairly big scores in here, like Villaronca going for De Bruyne, getting 48, and then the people that went for Kane. But then everyone else getting 15 points from it, 12 points. It's, yeah, I went for Bamford. So I was the only one out of this list who went for someone outside of like a premium pick. And I'd do it again. I just don't think that chip's ever going to get you absolutely massive points. And bench boost, I mean, the bench boost always feels like it should be good, but it's just not. It's so lucky. And the thing that I hate most about the bench boost is how you've got to get your team set up ready for it.
Yeah.
How you've got to wildcard a couple of weeks before. You disrupt the structure of your team. You've got to make sure you've got 2 playing goalkeepers and a decent defender. I hate the bench boost.
Yeah, it was completely my undoing. I got 8 points out of my bench boost, and the top in our league was 34, which was general. I played it in 19.
You played it fairly. So you played about midway through the season, yeah. But you, that was the one where you went for like Pope and two quite premium goalkeepers, didn't you?
Yeah. I can't remember the second keeper I had, but I sold Martinez to get Pope as well.
And you went triple Leeds.
And triple Leeds, and they lost their second.
I told you not to go triple Leeds.
Yeah, and it was awful. and I not only was the bench boost not very good, but the fact that I'd built for it and then had to take a strong bench beyond 19, which meant I made some bad benching decisions after that as well, because I gave myself that problem. So definitely this just underlines what I know. So 2 things so far that I'm gathered is the start with Son and Kane I didn't react to, missed out on, didn't react quick enough, and the chips. So straight away 2 lessons there that I've got to make more of in the summer and look at again ahead of next season.
FM38 just raises something in the chat that I've kind of touted for the last couple of years, but never actually had the cojones to go through with. But what about a game week 1 bench boost?
Well, it's interesting because the most effective place to play our triple captain was game week 1 because Salah in both our cases.
Yep.
And also with Michael as well. We're going back to this is FPLretro.com. This is the use of the chips. And you look at all of us basically could have used it on Salah in game week 1, and that would have been the most effective use of our triple captain all season. So using a chip in game week 1 is certainly something we shouldn't dismiss. And obviously in game week 1, you are going to have a strong bench. You can, because you can build for it, right? And at least if you do it,
a lot of people wildcard early anyway, right? Game week 3, game week 4.
Yeah, I think that is something we should examine. It's not a popular strategy, is it? Because you
very rarely see it.
But a chip in game week 1.
If you think of, I still think with like the triple captain, the free hit I still think is best in a blank. So unless game week 1's a blank, I wouldn't think of using that then because it just gives you a free hit, a blank game. Triple captain, I still think double game week's the most fun time to use it. You could end up with a big haul, Sanchez, Aguero, seasons past. Less so with like Shane Duffy and Andy Carroll, but you've got a dream. But the bench boost, like people always play in a double game week, but you've got lesser players, like lesser in the sense that they're cheaper. Often they might miss one. The fixtures aren't that good anyway, but you kind of get excited because it's a double. I think there's merit in it. If you can, it's just making sure you've got the starters, because obviously if you miss out, the player misses out. And if they're coming back from the Euros and players are a bit tired and you don't know if they're fully fit, if there's any doubt on your starting 11, then it's
it's hard enough to pick 11 players who are certain to start game week 1 without having to pick 15. I guess that's the only drawback. Well, it's one of the major drawbacks. What we're showing here is a screen from FPLretro.com, another brilliant site, which is really handy for analysing your season. And it shows Michael's use of the chips versus ours. And the major difference is the bench boost. He got 31 points from his bench boost, which equalled, in fact, interestingly, General's tally in our league, right? So 30 points from a bench boost is a very, very good score. And that's what we should be aiming for next season, about that level. I mean, I'll be happy with 20, but 30 is a fantastic result. And Michael got that. Yeah.
You can aim for it, but I don't know how you get it. I think my best ever bench boost score is about 20.
Yeah. Well, I think the point
I see that chip as being worth between 10 and 20.
Yes. But I think the point I'm trying to make here is I'm looking for the reasons that Michael won this season. And one of them is his use of the bench boost, 31 points, which is certainly above the average return. I mean, it would have been the best in our league. So that's certainly the first reason that you can sell.
Do you know who he had? Who he had on it? Like, did he have like premium, more expensive players?
I don't know.
I
haven't
looked.
Get lucky
with.
I haven't looked. I mean, I think the chips are something that we'll dwell on a bit more in another show in the pre-season, and I'll go into detail of how Michael and certainly someone like General who also did well with his bench boost, how they came to that. But just I mean, elsewhere there wasn't too much difference in his use of chips to ours in terms of the immediate results. What's striking on mine is that you look at my wild card, my second wild card, I actually did worse. Immediately, I got 62 points out of my wild card. If I left my team as it was, I would have got 63. But I did really well the following week. So that's the thing. You can't judge a wild card on 1 week, but you can certainly judge the bench boost and the free hit on 1 week. And this shows us that Michael certainly made more of his than we did. Transfers, though, they've got some good news. This will cheer you up, right? Our transfers were pretty good over the season. So again, this is from retro.com. So you made 48 transfers in total. And the total points you brought in as a result of those transfers were 309. And the total points transferred out was 97. So a difference of 156, pretty decent. And your average per transfer was 4.7 points gained. My transfers were very effective. 44, 371 points in, 107 out, a difference of 220. Got more points out of your transfers than he got out of his. So this kind of indicates that Michael's use of his one transfer per week wasn't perhaps the thing that made the difference. So it wasn't that. He was okay, he was good, but it wasn't wasn't what you would expect perhaps from someone who's won it. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing though is it's not just the immediate return you get from players; it's how they do over a longer period. So like I stuck with Martial for too long. I mean Neil Maupay. I mean, God, you talk about my villains of the season. I mean, I got him in. I backed him for weeks and weeks and weeks, and just didn't move. Always had kind of other issues to address. So even though I was addressing other issues that were probably returning points because I was taking out really crap players, I had other crap players still in my team that I'd bought in originally. So, yeah, I mean, it's nice to know that, this is the thing I always hate about that like zombie team thing. And about halfway through the season, I looked at it and I think if I'd left my team as it was, I'd have had 10 more points. I mean, there's nothing more depressing than that.
But that's
like,
not how it
time
turned
we
out.
spend. No, which is reassuring to know that at least I'm doing kind of something right. But yeah, I don't feel particularly good about the majority of my transfers this year.
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I think you were, there was not a major problem there. You could do better, of course, but when you compare yourself to the guy who won it, you're bang on. So I don't think it's something you need to beat yourself up on transfers. But there are other areas where Michael did far, far better than us. So this is another site, FPL.guru. It's another fantastic site with lots of data on there. I've chosen some of the data to show here with more focus on the captaincy, because this is where Michael really did come into his own compared to us, certainly.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting to work out just in the top data here. This is our best game week rank. Your best game week rank, 3,233. Better's even Michael's. Michael's best game week rank of the season was 17,000. So he didn't have like crazy, amazing game weeks. But his worst game week rank was 3.9 million, whereas yours was 6.4, mine was 6.6. What that shows is that perhaps,
a few of them.
Yeah, he either was more template than us, or he didn't take any outlandish risks with effective ownership, and therefore never suffered a terrible game week, whereas both you and I did. And I think that's pretty fair. I think we know that we had a couple of game weeks where we did go. I mean, certainly the Fernandes captaincy, you got the Greenwood captaincy on, really well played, but I didn't really go in on the triple game week enough, and I suffered heavily there. So I do know that I've got to have my worst game weeks need to be better, basically. I need to be getting the kind of stuff that Michael got.
I know where this is leading, and I don't want you to say it. But
No, go on. What?
Well, you're going to say, maybe I should use effective ownership to make sure that I don't have a really bad game week.
No, I don't. I don't think that. I mean,
No?
I need to be...
Good.
I need to be wary of it, I think. I think it's interesting. I mean, that's all tied into the the optimal way of playing. And there are people, there are managers who certainly play that way.
Oh, you just said it.
Yeah, I know.
Optimal way of playing.
Yeah. I don't want...
You're trying to get a rise out of me tonight.
I don't want to play that way, but I do think it's noteworthy that Michael's worst game weeks was 3.9 million, and that is a benchmark. I think that when we're going into next season, trying to keep our disastrous game weeks not as high as they were. I mean, coming 6.4 and 6.6 is
I know.
That's miserable.
If you finished with a rank inside the top million every week, you'd win it.
Yeah, that's right. You only need to come in the top million every week to win it,
which is weird. Like, trying to get that around your head is a bit strange, but it is true.
Yeah, very difficult to do, of course. But, because I mean, normally I do have. When you have a bad game week, it's sometimes a sign that your team's not template, and it'll get better, because eventually that will pay off and you'll have a good game. And often that is the case. I often have a really bad game week followed by a pretty good one. But to have, to be much more middling is perhaps the key. Certainly Michael looks like it.
What a takeaway. Just be average. And you'll win.
Be average with your extremes. Like, you don't need to come, like he didn't. You had a better game week score, better game week, single game week rank than he did. So he didn't need to have game weeks in the top 10k to win it. So I'm just saying, like, the range, I think, of game weeks should be quite narrow.
Yeah, I think that nicely ties into there's some stuff I've been seeing on Twitter lately, which is, and I think Michael Kuhn actually might have said it in his he said about patience and things, and it's this idea of your team doesn't need to look amazing every week, and I think that's definitely something I struggle with. Like sometimes I look at my team and I'll be like, oh no, one of my players is playing Liverpool away or Man City away or something, they're not getting any points, and that gets in my mind, and then I do a transfer and take them out or take another player out so I can bench them and all that kind of stuff. Whereas actually saving that transfer, being more patient, having more knowledge of what's going to happen can often help. So I think we all struggle with that a bit. We all want our teams to look perfect every week, but it doesn't always need to.
We do, don't we? Because we come on here and we talk about our game weeks, right? And we're very in the now. Yeah. When actually, and Luke has often said this, like FPL, unlike Sky, is all about that single game week score. And actually, that's not what matters. It's the season. And we do get trapped in that.
Yeah, a great example of that. Do you remember in like game week 4 or 5, I ended up with Bissouma actually in my starting 11.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't want him there, but I'd already made a transfer thing to take out like an injured player, Vinagre or someone, and I just didn't see any potential for a -4. And Bissouma actually scored that week, so you could hit something and get lucky with it. If I'd done that transfer, taken another -4, I would have been about 15 points down. It'd probably be in this lessons learned as being one of my biggest mistakes of the year.
Well, we'll get on to luck or variance, as we politely call it, and others politely call it, later on. I just want to dwell on the captaincy, the middle section of this graphic here. So you got blank, your captain blanked 36% of the time. My captain blanked 36% of the time.
Wow.
Exactly the same.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy, isn't it?
Very different strategies, right? Because I think I definitely had more different captains than you did.
It is, I mean, it's bizarre. And, so you got 564 captain points. I got 578. The optimal points you could have got, the optimal points, that is captaining the highest point score in your team, was 1029. Mine was 1032. Very little, isn't it?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we were absolutely identical on the percentage blank and the percentage returns. I was ahead on hauls. So in other words, when my captains did return, they returned a bit bigger than you. 36.8 compared to 31.6. But move across to Michael, and therein lies the difference. Only 23.7% of his captains blanked. So he got returns from 76% of his captain calls. And the percentage of hauls is 39.5. So he scored more from his captain more regularly, and when he did score, he scored bigger than both of us.
But he got 100. He got nearly 100 points more than you did. I mean, you finished 2K, and he got nearly 100 points more.
Yeah.
What was the difference between you both?
I'm not sure.
100, over 100?
It was over 100, yeah. It's about 140, 150 or something like that.
Okay.
It's quite big, but no doubt.
Amazing though, isn't it?
Yeah, he played his captaincies brilliantly. There is no question about that. So we looked at his...
So hard, the captaincy to get right.
Well, we looked at his transfers, and I don't think the secret lay with his transfers. Part of the secret was his bench boost, but a significant part of his success was his captaincies. Yeah. And he wrote an article, which I haven't read yet, where he said, don't take risks with the captaincy. And so I'm going to look at his captaincy pattern. I'm going to do what I did with Savert and really analyse it and see what we can do.
Well, that's basically what Savert said last year, right? Because he was all about captaining big-name players against the bottom-ranked teams.
Yeah, well, that's where the third graphic here shows the most popular fixtures that we used. These were the most popular fixtures we chose for the captaincy. We both went with Sheffield United, home to Sheffield United the most. And you blanked every single time. So you backed your captain against 4 times against Sheffield United in a home match, and you never got a single return out of them.
How is that possible?
And I did it 5 times and got 1 return.
That's ridiculous.
It is, isn't it? Because the narrative was Sheffield United at home was an easier fixture, but actually perhaps we missed something here. Like away from home, under Wilder in the early period, they perhaps were tighter than we thought, and they never got beaten heavily, to be fair, did we? There was that thing. So we were clearly wrong on that.
Yeah, and then look down to like Leeds, where I backed to play against Leeds 3 times and got 100% of that.
Got returns every time.
Like Leeds were obviously undoubtedly a better team than Sheffield United this year, but they were more likely to be opened up heavily, and we saw it like against United when they conceded quite a few goals. It was only towards the end of the season when they did massively tighten up and start winning to 0. But quite early in the season, there was a few games when they were conceding quite a lot. But yeah, Sheffield United, even though they're probably one of the worst teams that's ever been in the Premier League this year, they never got trounced, did they?
No, I mean, to be fair, Michael backed...
I can't remember them getting trounced often.
No. Michael backed... Well, at the end of the season they did, but not early on. Michael backed against Sheffield United 3 times, but he got returns only one of those 3 times. So, you know, he didn't go in as heavily as us. His most popular fixture was West Brom at home, and he got returns 3 out of the 4. He went Leeds at home, got returns all 3 times. Brighton got returns 2 out of 3 times. So quite a lot of variety there. So I will look at Michael's breakdown per team. I'm going to go into it. There's not anything he can hide from me. While his data's on there, I'm going to mine it to the full and find out what he did with the captaincy.
What is this site? It can't be FPL.guru.
It is. That's the URL.
FPL.guru?
Yeah, that's the... I believe so. I'll just check it now. It is a weird address.
Yeah, sorry. No, you're right. Yeah, .guru.
And do you know what?
Yeah, so it's 2 here and asked in the chat. But yeah, just type in FPL.guru and it comes up.
You know who created it?
No.
The guy who created the websites for Champman Fantasy and Gaffer.
No way.
Yeah. So he messaged me and gave me the link, and I quickly got in there today and used it. I haven't replied to his DM yet, but thanks very much for the link, and I've gone in and used some of your data and plugged it because it is a very useful site. Another one.
It is. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. I mean, I never would have thought that. I mean, I remember. I'm pretty sure I captained Fernandes at home to Sheffield United, and that was the week when I think maybe it was away. I can't remember which one. But there was a week when like Salah blanked, Kane blanked, and the final game was that United game, and I was like, oh, Bruno, this is it. This is going to be my redemption. He's playing, bottom of the league in great form. Blanks.
Yes, I remember that because I didn't have Bruno, so I was very, very happy with that outcome. So far we're seeing, Michael's use of the bench boost and his captaincy incredibly strong on both counts. So that's certainly something to me. So more on the captaincy then, and this is a bit depressing as well. Sorry, Az. So this is our captains each week compared to the top 10K's top pick. So this is the most favoured option in the top 10K. So whoever got the most captaincies, it's that player's score against our choice. And you got 278 over the season.
Depressing.
I got 285. But had we just gone with the most popular captain in the top 10K, we'd have got 300. So effectively, we should have just gone with the template captain and we'd have done better. Comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's big, isn't it? It's a big finding because I think, Luke is a big advocate of going a bit different, and we talked about rolling the dice a bit with the captaincy and all that kind of stuff. Luke's kind of argument would be that actually there has been a better player, I think, pretty much every week than the top 10K ones, but reliability wise, they tend to get something. Yeah,
well, this is the next table. I knew you'd say that. But what this shows is the captains in the top 10K, and it looks at all of the captains in that given game week that they went for, and then picks out the most successful of those. And the cells in yellow are when a player other than the top 2 picks comes in top. So it's when a choice lower down the selection in the top 10K got the highest score. But what's interesting is look at the first 16 game weeks. Luke's theory that there are often better options outside the obvious picks to go for certainly does ring true, because there was only 3 game weeks in the first 16 where the top 10K's first 2 choices came in as the best. But then look at the end of the season. Look at 30 to 38. In those 9 game weeks there, only 3 times was that the case. Lingard in 31, Bale in 34, and Willock in 37. And let's face it, Bale and Willock are quite extreme. You were never going to pick those out. Maybe Bale, because Luke did. But towards the end of the season then, almost from game week 22 onwards, the top 2 picks in the top 10K got a lot better, actually came in more often than they did at the start of the season. And that's quite interesting. I don't know why that was. maybe because the top 10k was settled in the template and the template was very strong, and there perhaps wasn't much movement
Better
in the top
managers,
10k.
maybe.
Yeah.
Making better picks.
Yeah, absolutely. In the early start of the season, the top 10k is much more volatile. People moving in and out. The template's not as settled, perhaps. Whereas later on, so I think we can put more stock in the latter half of the season, because, like you say, towards the end of the season, the top 10k becomes more settled. It's more the kind of managers who are having the best seasons then. Whereas early on, the top 10k, people moving in and out a lot.
So is it better to take a punt in the early stage of the season?
Yeah, possibly. But I don't think there's any dispute that you can put a lot of stock with just going with the top 10k's first or second pick, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean, though, I mean, you only have to look at the top scoring players for the week, and they're often not the highest owned, most captain players. You can still hit it like I did with Trossard in that week.
Yeah, 29.
But yeah, you see data like this and you think, oh, it does make me want to be a boring save.
Absolutely.
Because the captain's so hard. It's such a difficult thing to get right. It's the most stressful thing I find about FPL in general, I think, is trying to get... Because every week you're just waiting for your captain to do something. As if they get something, you're kind of happy. But sitting there waiting every week just for some kind of assist or dodgy cross or whatever, it's hard.
It is. And when you look at the shaded cells in the latter part of the season as well, starting in game week 26, the highest percentage of captaincy is 6%. Son in 26, Kane in 27. After that, the players that came in have got either 1, 2 or 0% captaincy in the top 10k. So they're really obscure picks, massively obscure, including Trossard in 29, Bale in 34 and Willock in 37. So in other words, they're really hard to hit, I would have said. So trying to deliberately go with a strategy where you avoid the most obvious 2 picks for captaincy looks to be a concerning strategy to adopt, in my opinion. Do you not agree?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's hard to argue because this is actual evidence, right? It just depends how you want to play. Like it would be a very, very boring game if everyone just adopted the strategy of let's captain the highest owned players every week and everyone just does the same thing. It's still part of the reason why I enjoy this game so much, and the captaincy particularly lets you roll the dice a bit more. And I mean, realistically, 276 points for me, 300 if I'd gone boring every week. It's 24 points, and I know there's going to be high risk, high reward going with that strategy, but that isn't ridiculous. Like, that isn't like, oh my god, I need to completely change my strategy. It's 100 points, 150 points. It's 20 points, and that could easily be the other way round if a few more of those come off. So I don't think it's going to completely change how I play. I still like to try and hit a well-timed captain. If I'm not feeling that a premium pick is going to deliver, then I still want to use that as a way to try and get ahead.
Yeah.
Use the stats, the knowledge, all this stuff.
Sure.
It's just, it's when you look at like that, the consistency that like Salah's had, Kane's had, Fernandes has had all year. You're not just backing against your player to deliver. You've got to back against that player delivering as well, and that's the key. That's the key thing, because often they just get something out of nothing, and your player needs to have a amazing game to do it. So,
but here's perhaps the alternative strategy. Don't go extreme with it, but the fact that I did well for Mane in the final game week, he was the second highest pick for captaincy, but because Salah was so far in front, that was effective for me. So I went with a decent player who was actually the second most popular pick in the top 10k, but the only 3% of the top 10k went with him. So when it came in, it was really effective for me and for Michael. So perhaps the strategy is in game weeks where there is an overriding favourite, but actually the second pick is a very strong player. I mean, there's other examples of this. If you look at, let's go to, Kane in game week 18 was the second highest captain rank, but he only had 30% of the ownership in the top 10k. So good players who aren't perhaps the most popular pick, but second and third, I think is the way to go. So I don't think you can always trying to find the Willocks, the Trossards and the Bales necessarily, but you can always look at the second and third options and go with them in weeks where there is an overwhelming favourite, just as I did with Mane and Salah.
And often those can be, if you've got 3 premiums in your team anyway, it's not like you're going for Trossard over Kane. You're going for Salah over Kane, or you're going for Mane over Salah in your example. It's a bit different, isn't it? So I like that.
Yeah, I think that's
a good way of looking at it.
I think that's what I'm going to take into next season, is look for those opportunities ahead of time and go exactly as I did, because I knew Salah would be the overriding captaincy. So I went with Mane as a push partly because I didn't do the Antonio thing before. But I think it's certainly something to take for that. Again, we'll look at more of that in the pre-season. Right, back to FPLOptimised.com. And this is a sensational site again. I really recommend using it. It's got some amazing... I could have taken so much from this site, but I've chosen 3 or 4 things. This is showing our gain analysis. So in other words, these are our biggest gains versus the top 10K over the season. So the players that really made a difference to us when we went with them and got us perhaps the biggest rank gain, in other words. Certainly against the top 10K managers. Yours was Greenwood in Gameweek 35. 29.61 effect.
Really happy to see him on there.
Yeah, and then Trossard, again, you mentioned it, Game Week 29. You took that risk and you captained him, and it was your second highest gain. Werner's down there, Game Week 5.
Do you remember that?
Was that the captaincy at home to... Who was it against?
I don't
Burnley?
think
I want to say
him.
Burnley.
No, it was High Line, Mark.
Southampton. Yes.
Southampton, High Line. Bashed on about it for weeks, and it came in because that was my wildcard week,
right?
And I took him out and then wildcarded and then put him back in to back myself up on the High Line. Yeah, classic.
So again, this is useful because we can look back at this ahead of next season and go, right, okay, what were our best gains and what were the conditions around those gains? And mine is like, look at mine's Grealish, right? Game Week 4, which the conditions around that game was pure fortune that I didn't have a transfer to get him out for Barnes, because that's what I was going to do. I used it on Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah. That's outrageous.
When it came in. The next one is Mane. I could take a bit more credit for that one. That was played for, Game Week 38. Then Rafinha at Newcastle, I think that was, Game Week 25, where he got his only double-figure return, and I was early on Rafinha. And Alexander-Arnold, Game Week 20. So these, it's really interesting to go down the list, have a look at those particular game weeks and the conditions that surrounded those decisions. And then try and bottle that.
This is a lovely list, because these are the heroes, right?
Yeah, I'm about to get to the villains in a minute. Yeah.
No, let's just stay on this. It's nice to see a list of players.
Positive, yeah.
Because I've got memories, right? Memories of these players. Like Rashford in Game Week 25 was massive for me because I bought him in for Son, I think, and he played Newcastle at home. Got 2 goals in that. There's Basuma, Game Week 4.
Yeah, look, Pereira's in there. Pereira's in there.
Game Week 2. That was so sweet.
That was Everton,
I've been
wasn't
bigging him up. Yeah, Everton. I've been bigging him up all pre-season. I wish I'd got him in towards the end. I knew he was going to be good, but I didn't expect the run that he'd go on towards the end of the season. He was getting points every week. He deserves to sign for a good Premier League side. I'm excited to know where he goes.
But essentially, this is basically a highlight reel of your season, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. Ziyech is there. I got him in for 1 week. He delivered straight away and then did absolutely nothing. Yeah, this is really cool.
Okay, well, don't want you feeling happy about that too long. Let's look at the big losses.
Oh, God.
So for you, the net effect loss was Fernandes in Game Week 35. That although you went Greenwood that week, you kind of balanced that out by not going Fernandes. Yeah. And it's the same for me as well. So there's no inquest required for that. We know exactly what happened there. We both knew that was a big risk. And lo and behold, it was the one that did most damage to us relative to the top 10K. Then my second one is Kane. Your second one is De Bruyne in Game Week 11. And that's the point I got him in and you didn't. Remember that? And I captained him and you didn't even have him.
Remember it.
And that was the point where we were both neck and neck, and then we both went whoop, and you went one way, I went the other.
Well, it was the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
For me, that was. I mean, I just didn't think De Bruyne looked quite right, and I didn't think he was going to do as well as he had done in previous years. And I was right. Another thing that I was kind of right about, but he just did enough damage to me in like a couple of weeks and then did barely anything after that just to make it really hurt. And that was the week when I got in Mahrez and Vardy. I backed Mahrez and Vardy over De Bruyne and whoever else it was, and they just did nothing. And De Bruyne, who was like, he was, well, was it only 123? God, it felt like about 300%. It felt like everyone had him and captained him, dual captained him, whatever in that week. That was really poor. I don't like this list.
Yeah, well, there it is. I mean, effective ownership of De Bruyne that game week was 123.6. Kane game week 5 for me. Not sure with that, but he got 16 points. I mean, I still didn't get on him. 123.4 ownership there. The Stones one's in there for us both. Look, I mean, Stones haul of 27 points. I mean, absolutely murdered us, didn't it?
I still can't believe that. I can't. And like, so this is the problem with Twitter, isn't it? Like, something like that happens, and just everyone and their dog's got him like in their team. Look at me, I bought in Stones this week. He got 27 points.
Yeah.
Like, why have you got John Stones?
I mean, at the time, I'd wrote that off as, not many people had got him. It didn't really register with me how much damage that done, but it's done. It did.
55%'s high. Like, that's high for a defender. That he was, and you had Diaz as well, didn't you? But Diaz did well that week because he got the assist, didn't he? And two.
He did all right. He got
about 15 points, I think. 15, 16 points. I didn't have any of them. I just had Cancelo. But yeah, Stones and Diaz was. Oh, that's it. Diaz assisted Stones, didn't he?
Yeah.
Diaz shot and then Stones touched him.
So again, I'll go into this a bit more in the pre-season, but very, very useful kind of launch pad for more kind of analysis and quite interesting to look at. Now, it gets even more interesting, this site, because what you can look at is risk analysis. Now, this is really interesting because, I mean, I'll try and simplify this, but this is effectively the effectiveness of your risks. And the line you're looking at there is a 0 line, and you want to get as many dots over that line as possible because that is...
This is players, not captain.
Yeah, this is players, yeah. This is decisions that you've made. So this is decisions with transfers or decisions with captaincies. And it's game weeks where you have suffered significant... Well, it's basically your relative gain or your relative loss compared to the top 10K. And then along the bottom, the axis is showing the differential risk. So that is how risky that decision was. So you can see that we've both made around just above 60% in terms of our riskiest decisions aren't massively risky. They're around 60% in terms of this site's assessment of what's a risk, right? But the interesting thing is I've got quite a few more of my risks appear above the 0 line than you. And a lot of mine hover around the 0 line. So effectively then, when I took a risk, I got more points from them or they did fewer damage to me. Whereas your risks did a lot of damage to you from looking at this.
Cheers for that.
Yeah.
Good.
Were you aware of that?
Next slide.
Well, right at the top is actually the Trossard ones. And I think it's Greenwood and Trossard, the two at the top. I had a look. Whereas mine is...
I mean,
it's
it's interesting, but at the same time not surprising because you did a lot better than me. So the players you brought in did better than the players that I had.
Yeah,
like so, it's not rocket science.
No, but I think it maybe is about. It's interesting that we didn't take huge risks, but mine just came in.
Yeah, I thought I would have taken more higher risks. Not necessarily that they came off, but that. Yeah, I mean, Tuhin says in the chat, Az needs to work on his gut feeling. It's probably quite good advice.
Let's look at Michael, though, because this is where it gets really interesting. In that Michael took a good few risks, and some of them much more than us, into the 70%, high 60s. So he actually took more risks than us, according to the optimised site, and that perception of what a risk is. Look how many he got above the 0 line. Far more than both of us. So his risks came in more often and he took more risks. And the damage that his risks inflicted was lower than ours. Like, he didn't lose a relative change below 15%. Whereas if you go back to ours, some of your risks were like into the mid-30s. They did significant damage to your rank, and mine were minus 25. So again, when he took risks, not only did they come in more often, but when they didn't come in, they didn't do as significant damage.
But that's the thing that Luke and I have been trying to go on about for months, is that like we both believe if you're going to win it, I mean, you know, the argument is you can win it if you play ultra safe and reserve an optimal strategy and all of this, but that rarely happens. Like the person who wins it just, you know, I don't want to say it's all luck, because it's not luck. It's still Michael making the right decisions, but there is an element of luck in it, because there is. That is the game, right? So, you know, if the players I'd bought in had done well, I'd be up there at the top, and you know, and Michael might not be. It's, you know, to reach those heights, like the top 100, I still think if all I cared about was trying to get that top 100, and I didn't care where I finished, 100,000, 500,000, a million, whatever, I would be playing like this.
Yeah, I mean, but
keep trying to hit.
He took more risks than us. Now,
exactly. That's what I mean. That's the way to win it, I think.
But he wasn't. I don't think he was reckless necessarily. And I mean, I haven't gone into all the decisions that he made around this. I will do, but I haven't done it for this show. But then then we go on to the FPL. Oh no, that's the wrong slide. Let's go back. I need to launch that. Let's go back. I'm gonna have to do that the old way. I knew I should have checked it. Right, let me just find this is what I was looking for. I obviously set Stream Deck up wrong. This is FPLreview.com, and this is a fantastic site. This is effectively what FPL Review is like Rate My Team. It's a model which does similar to Rate My Team. It came after Rate My Team, and I actually spoke to John, who created this site, this week, because I wanted him to help explain these charts that we see in front of us now, which are radar charts of myself and Michael. And so what FPL Review does, it has a statistical model which gives you expected value, or you could say expected points. They call it expected value of every player for every game week, and you can use it to analyse your team, and you can get it to recommend transfers, and you can look at who it feels is highest ranked for EV, expected value for that week, and you can use that to guide your transfers. And what these diagrams show is how our teams performed next to the model in terms of how tightly they followed the model, how they performed for XG data and FPL points. There is a column section called luck, and there is a section called risk taker as well, right? So I just ought to explain as well, and this does take a lot of getting your head round, because I had to have an hour session with John to explain some of this. This is relative to what he calls the Elite 1000. The Elite 1000 is a batch of FPL managers that he's collected, who have got obviously lots of good seasons behind them. So you
in there?
I believe I am, but didn't like to say. But yeah, so there are 1,000 managers that he has sampled, and he uses that sample as what he considers to be the benchmark, right? And then this compares us to that. And if you're 0.7, you're hitting the average, I think. You're hitting the average of the elite for the season. If you're above 0.7, you're going above the average. So for all these values, 0.7 is the bite point, the crucial point, if you like. Now, if you look at your chart, in terms of how you followed the model, you're just over 0.7. So you're quite tight to the model, but there's quite a lot of white there. You're 0.7, so you're quite typical of the elite and how tightly they followed his model.
Not very lucky.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. I know you're keen. I know you're keen to talk about that one. For XG data, so this is how common it was that the players that you brought in registered high XG. You're about average with the elite managers, right? 0.7. And for FPL points, you're just below. You're below the average. I think the average rank in these elite managers was 60k, which is interesting in itself, because I spoke to John and said, wow. So do you think 60k is the new top 10k? And he said, yeah, very much so. So that's interesting in that, we all talk about, what's the minimum we want to aim for as someone who's played the game a lot? And we all go top 10k, don't we? We like to. But actually, he feels that looking at the elite managers that he's collected, I have to be careful saying elite. This is John's terminology, not mine, right? Before anyone gets on at me for calling them elite. For that group of managers, 60k was the average rank, right? So 60k is perhaps what we should be going for as a first target.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is, yeah. So you were just under that, obviously. Then we get to the luck slice, right? And the luck slice, he really wanted to call it variance, and he's thinking about naming this. This is when the decisions you've done, which are seen as risks, when they come in, right? How often does your riskier differential decisions come in? And then you look at it in conjunction with the risk taker slice. So as a risk taker, you are under the average for this elite group of managers. So you take fewer risks than the average.
Really?
But yeah, according to this, yeah.
Okay.
But also your risk just didn't come in. So when you went for a differential captain, when you went for a player that the model didn't suggest, when you went for like a player that was quite way down on the model, it didn't come in for you. Hence, that's why your luck is at 0.03. So it's lower.
About right.
Your level of benefiting from variance was lower than the average elite manager, and you took lower risks. And you were behind the template as well. You weren't really template. Yeah, so you were unfortunate because the variance didn't go in your favour. When you look at my chart, go on. Go ahead.
But just quick, I was going to say, but that doesn't take into account, like, let's assume that all of the differential players that I bought in were good picks. Right?
Yeah.
But they might not have been. Like, I might have bought in like Kante, right?
Yeah.
And captained him. That's not luck, though, is it? That would just be a bad decision if it didn't come off.
Sure.
But I guess it doesn't. But it doesn't take that into account. I'm not being.
No, I don't know exactly how. I don't know to what degree John looks at this. He told me some of the decisions you look at. He looks at transfers. He looks at your captain. He looks at your triple captain. He looks at how often you went against what the model would suggest, and that then gives you your level of risk. And also the luck is then the measure of how effective that risk was. And
why am I arguing this? No, I'm really unlucky.
No, exactly. So when you look at me, my level of risk is also below the average elite and almost identical to you. But the returns I got when I took a risk were far greater. So variance was much more on my side than it was yours, according to the FPL review. But
the argument would be that you made better picks when you went against the grain. You made better selections.
Okay, I mean, it can't show.
But then I'm not completely convinced that is true. So I think there is. I mean, we've talked about our transfers every week.
Yeah.
It's not like I've ever done something and you've gone, that's absolutely insane. Why on earth would you do that? There's always been a reason or a logic or some mad thing I've got in my head that makes me want to do it. And it's we chat about them and stuff. It's so. Yeah, kind of what this is saying is that we both tend to go against the grain the same amount, but when we do, you've just smashed it this season and I've not at all.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, but it's interesting that compared to Michael, who's the chart below, we take fewer risks than him, right? Which is what the FPL Optimized chart, scatter chart showed. He took more risks than us. Also, his risks delivered emphatically far more than the average in the elite managers. So when he did take a risk, he nailed it more often than the elite. I mean, I was just above average. I was at 0.8. He was on 1, so he was doing incredibly well. And he's, of course, on 1 for XG data and FPL points as well. So he was fantastic at picking out players that had high XG data. Interestingly, he is less in line with the model and the template than both of us. So we are tighter to the template. So our teams were closer to the rest of the elite group that John built and tighter to the model than Michael. Michael actually had more difference between him and the other elite managers and the model itself. He went against the model a bit less often than we did. So we're actually quite template and we don't take that many risks. And the difference between me and you was my risks came in and yours didn't.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so surprised at that because that's
well, I'm lucky.
That's right? Kind of the nature. Yeah, you always have been. But I'm surprised that we're both so low on this risk taker thing compared to the top 1,000 because I thought you and I were quite maverick in a way, but.
Yeah, but I think, don't forget, late risers in that group, and he skewed it massively this season because he took loads of risks. Yeah. No, I mean, if you look at late risers risk taker for this season, it's massively high, right? So there are bigger risk takers in that elite group than us. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, because Ola has been mentioned in the chat, because obviously people aren't talking about him because he didn't win it, and it's nasty because of how long he was in it for.
Yeah,
he was
fantastic.
He was the definition of like risky things coming off. Like every week he'd do some mad thing, and it would pay off. And yeah, this is all Luke and I have. Luke will love this because this is all Luke and I have been going on about for ages. Is this kind of luck's a funny word for it, because a lot of the time it's not just luck. It's, you know, luck isn't like going for Kante and him getting a double-digit return and being no, I just auto-picked. It's still calculated. It's still there's like method
it's
to
the
it.
It's the Mane thing, right? I took a conscious decision to not go for the most popular captain, and it came in for me. That is variance.
Yeah.
Like on another day, that might not have happened, right? But the fact is, when you make a decision against the grain and it comes in, to win it, you've probably got to get that a good few times, which Michael did, right? And going for Mane, I'm not saying that's a lucky pick. It was a calculated risk. Michael was obviously very good at doing that this season.
Because this is where it's interesting. Like, say you've got one person playing like the optimal strategy, right? The optimum strategy, and then he's playing like me, and I'm playing this way. Okay, so you know, obviously a lot more variance in the picks that I do. You'd back the optimal strategy person against me. I'm fine with that. You added me and you playing the optimal strategy. You added another 3 people, another 4 people, another 5 people, another million people. You know, suddenly that person playing the optimal strategy isn't going to back themselves as hard against that many people than they would against 1 or 2 people. And that's the only point we've made, is that the optimal strategy only works to a point, because all these other people playing different ways, one of them could hit the really top levels.
I agree.
And it could be you if you did.
No, I totally agree with that. And with 8 million players, no matter how well you're playing in terms of what the model suggests, you could be playing it absolutely perfectly. Yeah. There's going to be someone who's so lucky they're going to beat you anyway. Yeah. Because every time they make a call, it comes in. And I only looked at the top 3 managers, top 3 or 4, and they all had this luck portion to the highest point, right? So in other words, when they do take risks, they come in. That's been typical. And I will look deeper into it. But John was of the agreement, there's no doubt that you've got to have that foundation of following the template to some extent, which Michael does show here. You know, he's quite tightly following the model, not quite as tightly as me. It's about the same as you. But he takes more risks, and his risks came in. And you can say that's luck or variance, call it what you like, but you do need that to happen, right? When you take a risk, it's got to come in for you to win it, I think. It's just how many of those do you take, though? Like, Michael is still below the average for the elite, so he's not taking crazy risks. Whereas what I think what got misconstrued when you came out and said what you said and what Luke said in the community was, you need to be doing that all the time. Well, you don't. Yeah. Michael's showing that, right? He's taken risks, but at the right time and to the right level. And they've come off. So what I'm taking from this is perhaps I need to just nudge up the risks a little bit, but in order to do really well, they've got to come in. I mean, it's that range, though, of how lucky do you need to be? How much does that variance need to come in? And I heartily recommend FPLview.com and looking at this, because it is fascinating. Just put a few other managers in and have a look at them. I'm sure if you put the top 10 in, they'll all have that luck portion high. But it'd be fascinating to see how many of them are similar to Michael in terms of the level of risk he took. He was absolutely spot on with the level of risk. And I think if you push it too far, you're not going to, it's not going to work. Yep. There's a sweet spot, isn't there? But it's just, it's amazing having sites like this out there and optimized as well, who really go into the science of it and really enable us to see the nature of someone who won it and how they acted and what came in for them. It's fascinating. And, a few seasons back, we didn't have any of this. So I urge you use these tools and try and game for them. We're going to use them a lot more, I think, over the seasons, and certainly pre-season as well. Right. I think that's it then for the navel gazing. I just want to look at some players now. This is our player table that we've been running all season. This is the one for minutes per expected goal involvement on penalties on there, but it's what it's ranked by. The players that have done really well for this, the top player, Martinelli, is there because he's played a few minutes perhaps, but it's certainly a name.
Jahan Bash, no.
Yeah, Jahan Bash is there. Down. I mean, of the top players, it's interesting that Bale is second, and I think, we don't know what's going to happen to him. But it's pretty clear that if he does stay in the Premier League,
He won't be.
no,
Would be amazed.
he's gone, isn't he, somewhere? But
China,
US or China, yeah. Martin Anilo is a player to watch, definitely, based on the brief appearances that we've seen this season. Going down the table, interesting that Salah, Mane and Jota are all almost identical. I mean, just look how closely packed they are for minutes per XGI non-penalty. Cavani in there, if we could be sure he gets loads of minutes next season, but of course the Kane transfer could change everything, so we just don't know what's going to happen there, do we? So it's perhaps futile to talk too much detail about that. Another thing I picked out here is Chelsea strikers, Giroud, Abraham and Werner, they're all in this table. And that kind of indicates that if Chelsea can have a settled striker, they've got to be worth a look. But we just don't know who that's going to be. I mean, I'm thinking Abraham's going to leave. Do you agree with that? He's going to go, surely.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping he comes to Brighton. I thought we might have a chance of Tony if they didn't get promoted, but he'll obviously stay at Brentford now. I think Abraham at Brighton would be a really good fit.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking what his likely destination would be if he did leave. Villa would be one.
A mid-Prem team.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where Brighton see themselves.
Yeah, I mean...
10th, 11th.
He's got that connection to Villa because he was on loan there, but they're not going to look for... I mean, they need some competition for Watkins, but they're not going to splash it. Wherever he goes...
It'll cost around 30 million, I imagine.
And he'll want assured starts, right? And Brighton's a good place for him. I think that's a good shout. So if he goes, I think we've got to look at him, certainly.
West Ham, maybe. So kind of only... Well, they got rid of Haller, didn't they? They've only really got Antonio.
Yeah.
And they've got European football, so...
Yeah, I think that's a good shout as well.
Could be West Ham. But I'm hoping Brighton can make it quite an attractive option.
Well, they've got to get a striker.
It'd be a great fit. It'd be a great fit at Brighton. I rate him. I think he's a great player. Yeah,
I think he is. He's a penalty box player, isn't he? He doesn't offer you much outside of that. He's a bit like Calvert-Lewin in that respect, in that he stays in the width of the penalty area and he does his business there. He doesn't run channels as such. But I think that's what Brighton need. They don't need, creativity and approach play. They've got that in plenty of that. It's just the finishing.
We need a Glenn Murray just to stand in the penalty area and just knock them in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, let's look at keepers first of all. These are the top 10 keepers by points. Simple as that. Just some lead up for next season. I mean, Martinez is going to go up in value. Probably going to be 5-5 right at the start of the season.
5-5, you think?
I think he could be. Yeah. Do you not see that?
Yeah, I guess so. It'd be a shame though.
Yeah, it would be.
It'd be a shame for any keeper like that to be 5-5 because no one's going to go there, I don't think, or a lot of casuals will, but I definitely wouldn't.
Well, he's going to be 5. I think he could well be 5-5 though.
5 would be interesting. But 5 would be too much.
If you look at Kasper Schmeichel, he was 5-5 this season,
and it was too much.
It was, yeah. But Martinez has just missed out on being the highest scoring FPL keeper of all time.
He'll be on my wall.
1 point. So you've got to think.
Be the one.
Yeah, he's going to be the one this season.
He's going to be the one. Yeah, I decided. Yeah. He was so good.
So players I would pick out here in regards to next season that are of interest to me, Meslier, I think, because I think it's interesting that Leeds tightened up in the second half of the season, and it's going to be worth watching whether that continues early on next season, which could be bad news if you're looking at the attackers, but good news if you're looking in defence. And we're not going to have Dallas. Dallas will be a midfielder, won't he, right? So I think Meslier is going to be a popular pick. What do you think about Sanchez? I mean, the Brighton keeper next season. I mean, Sanchez is down low for minutes per points, but he's only down low for points because he didn't play the first half of the season. And Brighton were exceptional once he got in the team. What do you think about Brighton's keeper, whoever that may be next season?
If he's first choice in the 4.5, he's straight. He's first name on my list, I think. Because we've seen from all the defensive stats we've done over last season the potential Brighton have got to keep it tight, keep clean sheets. I mean, I had Ryan at the start of the season for that reason. I thought we would actually be quite a decent defensive side, and he was a large reason why we weren't for long periods. Because he was just terrible before he ended up going off on loan. So I don't really know what's going to happen at Brighton. I think Sanchez has done enough to, kind of be first choice there. So I can't see his price going up to 5.
Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because if you look into the defensive data, you would put it up. But I don't know if they will. I think they'll just go, Brighton keeper. Brighton are probably going to be in the lower half of the table. We'll go 4-5. I hope so.
I mean, they can't make everyone. They can't make everyone 5, right, or 5.5. So there wasn't that. I think this year particularly was the first real season when there was very few goalkeepers at 4.5. There was the promoted goalkeepers, and then there's someone, correct me if I'm wrong, there was McCarthy and Ryan.
Forster, yeah.
And that was kind of it, right? There
was
no
many, no.
Because, you know, Martinez was as well, of course, at 4.5, but no one was really sure whether he was going to play instead of Leno, and there was kind of all that going on. So, you know, if they make everyone 5 except for the promoted keepers, I'd probably just end up going for a promoted keeper for 4.5.
Well, I think Meslier could be. I don't know if Meslier is going to stay 4-5 low. Meslier and Sanchez are the two that leap out at me. If they're 4-5, that's a no-brainer. I don't think they will be low. I just see them maybe getting pushed.
Brighton have finished like 4th from bottom. Or 5th from bottom.
I know, but we know full well that defensively they've been very strong.
We know, but do FPL Towers? Well, you're going to...
I'm going to make him a 5. I don't want to because I want him in my team.
Don't let Az get him. Make him 5.
Make him 4-5 for me, but for everybody else, make him 5. That's not going to work, is it? And going back to the Martinez one, you don't think it'd be 5-5. Patricio was 5-5. I mean, if Patricio's 5-5.
Yeah, but he was over. This is the thing. He was overpriced. This is the problem. They can make goalkeepers 5-5. They can do whatever they want. But if you make Patricio, Schmeichel, these guys, the only goalkeepers that should be 5.5 or more, I think, are like the top 6 goalkeepers. Which, to be fair, I guess does include Leicester now. But I would never pay 5.5 for Schmeichel.
Yeah.
So surely you have to make it a little, because otherwise everyone's just going to have the same 3 goalkeepers. It's going to be really boring.
Yeah, I don't want
going to go. No one does. At least if you bring I think 5 is an interesting price for a lot of goalkeepers because 5 is not the cheapest, but it's not like premium level. Like, you know, when like Pickford's 5. Like I started the season with Pickford one year because he was 5 million. I thought Everton had a good run. I don't like paying more than 4.5 for a keeper, but it kind of might seem worth it. It wasn't worth it, but you know, I think 5 is 5 for like a kind of decent but not
It's got to be relative to their defence, though, isn't it? So we can't sit here now and go, "What this is what it's going to be." I don't see. Do we see a Villa defender being 5-5? No, not really. I don't see anyone in that Villa defence being 5-5.
It was all about the saves and the bonuses.
So if you make him 5 million, not only are you making Martinez the most popular choice because he's the best keeper to get at 5 million, but also if I want to back Villa's defence in any way, you're going to go Martinez. So that's why he's got to be 5-5 to make you think, oh, shall I just get Target at 4-5? It's got to be tantalising, hasn't it? That's there is an art to it in that respect.
Yeah. Okay. Martinez might be better, but I can't really understand the logic of pricing like Patricio at 5.5.
No, not for next season. No. But anyway,
that's right. The goalkeeper can be 0.5 more if they are 0.5 better than the rest of the defence.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I get that. That makes complete sense.
At least, and I think they kind of need to make the Villa defence, other than Martinez, cheap. Otherwise, Martinez will be hands down the most popular keeper pick anyway. And I hate to see that. I like to see them price players in a way which sets dilemmas for us and go, oh, I could get Martinez for 5.5, but I can cover most of that with Target at 4.5, can't I? You know what I mean? You want that. That's what you want.
No, I agree.
Anyway, defenders then, talking of which, Dallas at the top there, 171 points. Incredible. What a fantastic... I mean, even if someone had said to me he's going to play out of position for some of the season, I wouldn't have said he would have beaten Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. Amazing first season.
I started with bloody Luke Ayling.
We did. And not only that, after about 8 or 9 weeks, we were both going, but Ayling's the best. The stats are showing that Ayling's the best. We got that completely wrong.
I wildcarded and kept him.
Yeah, we got it very, very wrong. I mean, in the early data showed that Ayling was going to offer more going forward. Dallas wasn't at that point playing midfield, to be fair, right? But as soon as he got pushed into midfield for a few weeks, he shot right up compared to Ayling.
Scoring defender, wow, that is a real surprise.
I mean, Ayling's nowhere to be seen on this list, which shows you the impact of those attacking returns on him. Crazy. I mean, Ayling should have got more attacking returns, to be fair. His stats were pretty good in terms of potential involvement, but it didn't come in for him, did it? What do we think about Trent and Robertson then for next season? Because I started the season with both, which was a mistake.
Yeah. Did I? I might. No, I don't think I did. I mean, underperformed really, but underperformed in terms of their previous seasons. Like in 161 points is still okay. And given everything that Liverpool have had to go through this season, particularly in defence, you know, they've done quite well to make it even to that. I mean, Trent has been disappointing. I mean, for neither of them to have got double-digit assists, I think we all kind of just expect that from them now because they've done it kind of consistently. So, yeah, it'd be interesting if they can push on. It would be even more interesting to know what that happens to their prices, because I'd still say they need to be 7 each.
Yeah. Oh, I think they'll be both. I think Trent will be higher.
They'll probably both be the same now. You think Trent will still be higher, even though Robertson outscored him?
Yeah, he's just got that extra dimension, I think. I think 7 and 7.5 is where they'll be, I would have thought. I mean, elsewhere on the list, I mean, you know, we're going to be bringing in the Chelsea. I mean, if Chilwell is first choice, if Alonso moves on, I think he's going to be very popular.
Got to be.
Very popular pick, yeah.
And wing back.
Luke Shaw's going to be incredibly popular because there's no doubt he's first choice. I mean, I don't know if he'll go up to 6 million. He probably will.
He'll be up to 6.
Yeah, at least 6, I would have thought, because of his level of creativity. So, you know, there's some interesting. I mean, I'm a sucker for an attacking fullback, right? So, but it's interesting that when I was reading more of Michael Kuhn's stuff, he went really cheap in defence initially, whereas I went completely the opposite and went expensive. So I'm going to re-examine that strategy for sure when the prices and fixtures come out, because I do think I went a little bit too mad with that. I really backed Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, and it didn't pay off.
Well, they were playing for the best defensive side in the league with, you know, no injuries.
Yeah, and then Virgil got the injury.
Yeah. So that was just huge. But be interesting to know what price Van Dijk comes back in, because he's going to be fit for the start of the season, and B, what the injury's done to him. Is he still going to be that commanding presence? Fast, right? He's been one of his
recovery's good, yeah.
Recovery, quick, strong, everything. Is there going to be? Hopefully, he can go back to how he's best. But you often see with these injuries that they're not quite the same player. But I hope he is.
On the Sanchez keeper thing, Dunk is an interesting benchmark there as well, because for Sanchez to be 5 million, that means you've got to make Dunk 5.5, because if Sanchez and Dunk are the same price, I'm going Dunk all day long, right?
I guess, but you're not going to play him every week. Whereas Sanchez, I feel like you could play and gets the save points and could kind of tick over. Like Dunk, you're never going to want Lewis Dunk playing every week in your team.
No, and that's why I think Sanchez will be 4 or 5, because I think Dunk will be 5, and they can't make them the same price, can they? Because if it's Sanchez and Dunk at 5 million, I'm going Dunk every time because of the attacking returns, and Sanchez doesn't make many saves either. So I think Sanchez.
You wouldn't go either, would you?
Oh, a Brighton. Yeah, I'm going to look at a Brighton defender.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Well, the data says they should have kept a lot more clean sheets than they did. Right, so there's certainly a defence I'm looking at going into next season.
No, well, I do think Sanchez should be 4.5, and I do think Dunk should be 5. So I guess I agree with you.
Okay,
midfielders. You can't make Dunk 5.5.
No, I don't. That's exactly.
He's not a 5.5.
No, he's not a 5.5 because it'll kill him, won't it? That's the end of him as an asset. So he's got to be 5.
Sanchez could be 5 though, based on like potential, but it just seems a bit high given that Brighton just didn't do it. Like
there's not the saves there, and you're never going to go Sanchez if he's 5. No. So I think 4, 5, and 5 is the way to go there. Midfielders, obviously Bruno at the top. Salah second, 244 versus 231. Son on 228. Outstanding season for Son. What's going to happen to Son, though, as an asset if Kane does depart as expected? Don't know. And if Kane goes to Manchester United, what happens to Bruno? He ain't going to hold penalties with Kane there, is he? So when you take Bruno's penalties away...
No way do they get Kane.
You don't think they're going to go... They're not going to go in for him, you don't think?
Well, they might, but they won't get him.
Okay. I think
they're after Sancho. Sancho's reportedly nearly
so he's still
80 million. I think the right wing is still the priority. I mean Kane is. They do need a striker. I mean Martial and Cavani, Greenwood. Yeah, I just think I just can't see any way Kane doesn't go to City.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
It's too obvious.
That will keep Bruno right at the very top, and probably all now. straight into our teams, right? Game week 1, depending on fixtures. I can't. It's difficult to resist him, even over. I mean, we said in this season that he was the new elite heavy hitter, more so than Salah, and I think probably going into next season that will be the case if he's still on penalties, certainly. Mane, surprised that Mane came 4th overall, isn't it? Because he had a dreadful season.
I know.
And yet he still came ranked 4th overall, 176 points. Minutes per point, 16, compared to, pretty good compared to some of the other names down there. Sterling, obviously, 16.5. Minutes per point, disappointing, I guess, but 154. So he was the biggest, perhaps, midfield disappointment after Aubameyang, I would say. I mean, he was the major one. But any names there for next season, apart from Rafinha?
Yeah. I mean, De Bruyne was a massive disappointment as well.
Yeah.
And capped off with the Champions League, fracturing his eye and nose. Just had one of those seasons, just forgettable. It'd be good to see him back next year. I wonder what happened to his price, because he was in no way a 12 million asset this time around. Was he going to go down to 10.5, 11? Probably.
Well, the pricing,
a bit of a...
The pricing versus Gundogan would be interesting, because Gundogan, is he going to be in a similar role to he had for that period this season? I don't think so, but he's still going to be someone to look at keenly as United City cover in midfield.
8.5?
I don't think he'd be that much. I think he could be 7.5. But Foden's the one, isn't he? Foden, not on this list.
Oh.
He's going to jump out.
Second to bottom.
Oh, yeah, there he is, yeah. And then another player that I've got to mention, because he's someone that you've locked horns over on Twitter, is Havertz, of course, who we are expecting Havertz and Werner to do better, right, next season. So we expect Havertz to be in this list at the end of next season somewhere, right? But where?
So let me just be clear. The clip that's going around today is a very incriminating video.
You started on me.
I did.
You did.
It's a very incriminating video of me comparing Havertz to a Sunday League footballer, right? I stand by everything I said in that clip, because I was talking about his performances up until that point, in which he ran around a lot and did nothing else. Wasn't creating chances, wasn't scoring goals, wasn't doing anything. And I gave it, an over-the-top
It was. I mean, even at the time, I went, oh, that's a bit hard. Even I was like,
well,
flinching.
That's what you do, right?
Yeah. Good
drama,
for the show.
Theatre,
exactly.
all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's been used against me to say that I didn't predict Havertz reaching the top echelons of the game. I said the whole season he had potential. My point originally was it was your soundbite I wanted, because you said you didn't think he had it in him.
I didn't say that. I said that
close.
I didn't think at that point that Werner and Havertz would become the players they should be, because they won't adjust. And it's not a given. Havertz is certainly showing much more that he's adjusted now, in that when he plays in that role, central role, he's much more. I mean, I still think if you stuck him out on the right where Lampard had him, he probably would still look lost, to be honest. So
I mean,
that's the problem, wasn't it, at that point?
The difference between Tuchel and Lampard. I mean, you don't need to go on. We don't need to go on about it, because it's evident. This won the Champions League, and Lampard was saying that we're not ready. We're a team in transition. All this is like. And then Tuchel's just come in and gone, no, we're not a team in transition. We're just going to win every match. But in
defence of Lampard, Tuchel probably knew Havertz better than Lampard. And Havertz did arrive without a clear best position to out. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, he is so versatile as an attacker. It's finding that role for him. And I don't think Lampard quite had long enough to get the best out of him. So I'm not blaming Frank for this.
I
wasn't. He got it completely wrong with his position early on. In that Brighton game on his debut, it was shocking. It was like he was a competition winner, wasn't it? It was like, what was he doing?
See? I know, I agree. Winner. Oh, you'll get away with that. Mr. Mark Summons.
In that game, he was awful, right? He was awful. And Lampard had to kind of cut him some. That was his debut, right? Fair enough. And but I over the season he's grown, and in that central role, he definitely offers potential. If he's going to play there for Chelsea next season, which you've got to think he will, he's not going to be put out wide. He could be in a deeper role, I guess. But I think.
I wonder. I have no doubt, and I've never really had any doubt about his ability and his potential. But I do wonder about his ability as an FPL asset. And I think I started the season with him without really knowing that much about him. There's no way I'll be starting next season with him. I do wonder, will we ever see him on a list like this of like 200 points? I think he could easily go to Premier League, like win Player of the Season and be fantastic, but only get something like 10 goals and 7 assists or 8 assists, but be absolutely crucial in kind of everything that Chelsea do and create. I don't know about him FPL wise, but player wise, I think his next season's going to be really, really exciting.
I think if you look where Rashford is there, 11 goals, 11 assists, I can see that being Havertz around that mark.
That's true. Yeah, true,
but he could surprise us. It depends what Tuchel can get out of him, and I think we've seen enough to suggest that he's got to be a player to watch. Unlike Foden, I don't think he's going to be straight in our starting 11s. I think that is perhaps a risk too far. Because that's the trap we fell into this season. We went. Well,
Foden is. I mean, Havertz will probably be around the same price, right? 8.85. Probably drop down to 8. I'd imagine. He's not done well.
Yeah.
8. But Foden. I mean, we both thought Foden was a bit underpriced at 6.5.
Yeah.
They can't really raise it that much higher, can they? Given
I don't know.
7?
When we look at minutes, per point, I think you can. Let's go to forwards first before we look at minutes per point. So Werner, then, another interesting topic, right? He is down on 128, 6 goals, 12 assists. Goal involvement, pretty good. Minutes per point, 20.3, not that great, right? Well behind Kane on 12.7, Bamford 15.8. But if you're listing players who we expect to kick on next season, there aren't many on that list. Watkins will be one. You expect him to get better. Maybe Calvert-Lewin. You're not going to look at... I mean, I think we've seen the best of Vardy. I think we've probably seen the best of Chris Wood and Firmino.
Though.
You don't think Watkins will kick on further?
Yeah, they lose Grealish. What, is he going to get more than 14 goals? Is an unbelievable return for an Aston Villa striker.
Yeah. Well, without Grealish, yeah, I agree. We probably won't see
I think he'll regress, if anything. He's a good player, though. I do like him.
But in terms of potential to get better, there aren't many better here than Werner, I don't think. Iheanacho, of course, right? We know that he'll be a very popular pick, won't he? But Werner, yeah. I mean, what will we get, though? I've still got my doubts about him. I still think that his position is not clear. Because if Havertz does play central, what's that? Is that Werner out on the left? That's the same old problem again. It's finding a place for him. But Tuchel likes him, and Tuchel seems to be getting I hesitate to say the best out of him, but he's getting more out of him than Lampard could, it seemed. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't agree with you on Havertz, but the more I watch Werner, the more I struggle to see it. Like some of the stuff he does is great. Some of the runs he makes, some of the space he creates. He's so fast. He's got all this ability. It's just I just watch his touch and his finishing ability and his composure and all this stuff, and he just doesn't look good at it. And I just wonder if there's going to be like a switch that just goes and he just starts scoring everything. But it just reminds me a little bit of like Torres when he signed for Chelsea. And he'd had the injury and he kind of wasn't the same player, but he, it's just that I've just got that image of Torres burned into my mind of him just looking up to the sky and being like, I can't believe I've just missed another golden opportunity. And that's a bit what Werner's like. I just think of Werner, it's just him going, oh no, I've missed another one.
But it turned for Torres. And interesting as well, I think Suarez's first season, he suffered similar stats to Werner. Right? I saw a tweet about that, and that was like, oh yeah, interesting. Suarez, who became almost a king of FPL and everyone's captain. I don't know, though, whether Werner's got that kind of transformation in him, but I do expect him to do better. So I think and like you say, pricing-wise, he isn't going to go up. He's going to go down, I think. I think he could be like 9 or 8.5 even. Maybe less than that.
I mean, so he's going to be interesting. 12 assists is good. Is a good return. So if he can double his goals, so if he can get 12 goals, which if he's leading the line for Chelsea with the stuff they've got around him, you've got to think he's still a 12, 15 goal a season person if he can just show anything better than what he's been doing. If he's 9 million playing up front for Chelsea and has that kind of potential, then I am tempted. But
they're going to buy, aren't they? I mean, they're going to be in the market for centre forward, surely. I mean, Havertz can play there and has, but they've got to.
If they sign a striker, then he's done.
Yeah, exactly. That's the worry, isn't it?
Because he'll be shifted out on the left and he'll be competing with Pulisic.
But I think they're going to sell Abraham and get a big name in. Probably not Kane, but elsewhere. I don't know. It's going to be. I mean, they're Champions League winners, right? So maybe they're happy with what they got. They bloody well should be, I expect, because
if they do that though, then maybe it's time to offload him.
Well, We'll see. It's a big season for Werner, as it is for Havertz. So really interesting. So just looking at minutes per point then, and this perhaps reveals some players that we should consider. And Foden is right out there, 11.9 minutes per point. This is why I think his price could go up significantly, because the FPL are going to be aware of that, because I know that's a metric they've looked at before. So I think he could jump quite significantly to around 8.5, I think, Foden. Do you think that's too much? Where would you put him?
I think he should be priced similar to Gundogan. So that would be around 8. Yeah. It's just strange though, because I know the minutes per point is good, but Foden just hasn't been an option, has he? For anyone. The people that have had him have been burnt really hard by him because he just hasn't played enough games. 135 points is more than I thought. I mean, I'm just thinking about Robertson and Trent, who got 160-ish. Like, it's not that far off them, and they are like elite FPL options, and he's got 30 points less than them, and he's a midfielder. Yeah, I think they have to put his price up, because if they price him at 6.5 and he's starting every week,
no, he'll go up for sure. It's just how much and what is the right amount. It's going to be. Also, there, looking further down, a name we haven't talked about, we mentioned him briefly going into the final. Pepe did really well, 14.1 minutes per point, 10 goals.
He's on my list.
I mean, 7.7. He's not going to. I don't think he'll probably stick around 7.5. I think he started at 8.
He's on my list.
He's got to be, isn't he? Yeah.
I mean, back-to-back braces in the last 2 weeks. It's just Arsenal. What happens with Arsenal? Like, how much are they going to back Arteta to kind of push them on a lot more? Willian was a complete disaster this year. They've got some exciting picks with Smith Rowe and Saka.
Willock.
Odegaard's leaving. Back to Madrid.
Yeah.
So they probably need another creative hub, because he's been fantastic for them this season.
Yes, but Smith Rowe, Willock, Saka, Martinelli, they've got some brilliant talent there. One of those could really break out. I mean, arguably,
I genuinely think it could be Pepe
right
next year. I think this could be it for him. I think he had a bit of a turning point this year and finished the season strongly.
But my point is, if Smith Rowe, Saka, Martinelli and Willock, if we think any of those are going to be regular starters, they're going to be cheaper than Pepe still, I think. Do you not think? So one of those 5, including Pepe, I think could be central to our season next year. I think very much so.
But Pepe is the best of the lot on paper.
In terms of the finished article, probably is. Yeah, he should be.
They paid 75 million for him or whatever it was. You don't just do that because, especially Arsenal, they're quite tight with their money. Like he should be the one. Is my point. I'm not saying he is the best of the lot, but he should be the one that is worth that extra money on top of the others. Yeah. But it would be great if Smith Rowe or Saka really did break through, because Saka had such good underlying numbers this year. And a lot of the games he played, the trouble is his versatility. Where's he going to play? Centre mid, on the right, back at left back, wherever. But yeah, if Smith Rowe's number 10 for Arsenal and 6, I'd be tempted. Yeah,
I mean, it's exciting times at Arsenal, and I think they're going to be a source of value for us. I hope so, because Willock is a player, 15.4 minutes per point, end of the season, incredible, 7 goals, 7 games. Pick out Abraham again here. I mean, he had a real on-off season, didn't really get opportunities apart from early on with Frank, but 15 minutes per point shows that if he gets a move and he gets regular starts, he's going to be around 6, 5, 7, I would have thought, depending on what club he goes to. So he could be a bargain, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hope here for next season. Lingard as well, we haven't spoke about him. Where's he going to go? There's a lot of hope, I think, for the template being a lot less settled next season, because I want to see that. I do think this season has been one where the template became quite robust and difficult to go against, and there wasn't the players like Sterling and Aubameyang, De Bruyne, who were threatening to break it up. They weren't consistent enough. Whereas next season, I hope, what I wish for is we've got 6 heavy hitters or 7, and then we've got really good mid-price options who could, like Maddison, for example. He's another player who didn't get the chance to deliver this season.
On my list as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a shame because he was in good form, got that injury, came back. I think he got rushed a bit into it, and then he's not even talked about in England. Didn't get called up, but just kind of because he was right on the fringe, wasn't he? And then that injury kind of really set him back. But he's always been someone that I've had my. I think what I've enjoyed most. I mean, this season's been difficult for a lot of reasons for everyone and whatever. But what I've enjoyed this season the most is just how many different picks have emerged throughout the season that I just never would have thought could do it. Shaw, Stones, Gundogan, Lingard, Iheanacho.
Yeah.
It's amazing. At the end of the season, you had like Willock scoring like every match. It's great. It's why I love FPL, and it's why every year is different because you get these guys emerging. So we get to go for it again now. Pre-season,
I know.
Euros. Who's going to come out in the Euros?
Well,
We're going to get so excited about a player.
You're playing the Euros quite hard by the looks of it. You've been putting those excellent threads up. One of several people putting excellent threads up. I know Bakar's been doing, Swede's been doing them. There's loads of content out on Twitter and on the various sites on Euro. I mean, I'm purposely staying out of it. I'm going to spend my summer analysing last season a bit more and trying to come up with more stuff for the show in terms that we can look at in the pre-season. And then we've got The Apprentice, of course, which we're going to kick off hopefully in a few weeks when we've made our selections and got in touch. I think that's going to happen very soon. On that front as well, actually, if you oh no, that's the predictions. What am I talking about? We'll come back to that in a minute. If you still not too late, you still get your application in at apprentice@fplblackbox.com. If you know of anyone who could fit the criteria we've got there, someone who knows football perhaps, never played FPL, who's willing to have a social media account, because we're going to introduce that over the season, get them involved on Twitter, and is willing to come on camera at times or on the podcast. We're not going to do loads of it, but a little bit of that. Then mail us at that address with the nominated person or get
last
that person
chance.
To get in touch. It is your last chance. It really is. So very soon we'll be reaching out. Just briefly, the Black Box League. Congratulations to Michael Atkins, who won our Black Box League and came 31st in the world. And to Torje Hegner, who came 32nd in the world. And to Ingar Martensen, 42nd in the world. The Scandinavians.
Michael, can you get in touch? Because I will get you your meal. It won't be with me, but I will treat you to a
Deliveroo.
Uber Eats /Deliveroo of your choice.
If you use Uber Eats, you've still got that £5 off, you cheapskate.
Boom.
Very well played, Michael. We're gonna follow our league a lot tighter next season. So Connor Richardson, if you're going to be mentioned again on the show, you're going to have to get into the top 20 again. It's the only way. But shout out to Connor, who's been in the chat every week supporting us. So very thanks for that. But yeah, well played to everybody. Won't go through the full list there. Just touch on the predictions, outcomes there. 50%
You've been very
correct score. So we ran this, thanks to FPL Pot Noodle, we ran this throughout the season. This is the results of our predictions league. I got 97 correct outcomes. You got 96. Couldn't have been tighter, could it?
Do you know what? I'm really happy with that, though. We both said around 50% and we'd be happy. I think, you've been clever here, because what you've done is every week we normally do it with decimal places, and this week you've rounded it up.
I don't see any decimal places anywhere on this. What are you talking about? Yeah, I know I have.
Yeah, it's very clever.
But it was good.
But yeah, I think 50% out of these matches, and I think recently we have started being a bit. I think it's just been a bit more obvious in the last few weeks, but particularly when we first started and it was kind of all over the place. We're very different outcomes and things. So for us to be this close and for it to be 50%.
Yeah, it's good. See if we can keep that up next season or get any better. Let's see. It's an interesting one.
Your outcome stuff is crazy, though. You were very good at that.
The correct scores? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll do a bit of analysis of that and see where I was best. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's good. We'll see how we compare next season, see if that helps us at all. I want to end on a special shout out to Fergie, who's someone who does the Green Arrow podcast, who's just been really good, him and Adam. But Fergie won the Dream Team, the Sun Dream Team, 75 grand, which really, I think it's fantastic for the community when someone so involved in the community, who does so much for the community in terms of producing content, wins something like that. And a shout out also to Chris Tan, who won the Champions League fan team as well. And General
won up both of these.
General got some money out there. He came fourth, I think. So those, seeing people do well in those competitions, it's fantastic. And what it does for me, we don't need this hobby validated. and I know we all play FPL and we're not interested in prizes, but those guys do play other games. To be honest, I'm not interested at the moment in doing that, but it does make you think, this hobby can pay off quite literally. And
well, shout out to Josh, who I've been in a mini league with for 5-6 years. He won the Premier League fan team, 200 grand.
You're joking?
Nope. He was 4th going into the final day, and Edison saved a penalty for him.
Wow.
And I think he had Mane, and won it, 200k.
Wow. Well, congratulations. You just trumped Fergie there. I was just...
Sorry to trump, but yeah, Josh, well played. And we before COVID, we were meeting up every year at a bar in London and going for drinks. I've mentioned them a few times on the stream, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a hell of a celebration when we meet up in Belushi's.
Fair play to him. It's great. I think it's fantastic that people we know and people in the community doing well like that. And yeah, well done, Fergie. Well played, well deserved, because he plays a lot of those games. He's done well in all of them really this season. So I hope you celebrate in style and take Adam out for a drink, at least one. But yeah, brilliant stuff. And so who knows? I mean, I'm still sceptical whether I should be playing some of those games as well. I just don't want to get in the way of FPL, and I don't know if my head can take another few games thrown in, but I'll have a look. It makes you think, doesn't it, that perhaps we should be playing some of those games and hopefully trying to win some money. But
fan team is an interesting one. It's the trouble with fan team is you're kind of encouraged to enter multiple teams.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of people have like 10, 15, 20 teams you're kind of competing against, but there are a lot less people playing than there is like FPL, and you don't just win for coming first. There's lots of different prizes. They're changing some of the rules next year. I'm doing some videos for fan team.
Right, nice link there to that. All right, okay, fine.
Yeah,
well played.
Yeah.
Okay.
So look out for those. But yeah, fan team is something I'll play next year, I think.
Yeah, well, a lot of them do. I mean, general plays out there, a lot of managers out there dip into it as well. But for me, it's probably going to be FPL only next season, and I'm going to spend my summer not playing the Euro game, but trying to figure out how I'm going to get better next season. It's going to be tough, actually. I actually should have started off with a more average season than the one I've just had, because it's going to be really hard to build on that, which is the idea of BlackBox, of course, to get better. So it's going to be awkward going backwards, but I got a feeling that could happen. So we'll see. But I'm sure you'll have a better season, as I think you're kicking.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I thought I'd need like weeks to recover, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the game to launch again and to start doing my pre-season teams and get the apprentices going, and yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Yeah,
absolutely. Looking forward to it. So we'll be back probably in a month's time or so with the first apprentice video or so. We'll see. We'll take it easy. We'll relax. We'll enjoy the Euros, and we'll be in touch soon about what we're doing in the off season. We'll do lots once the game is out. Of course, we'll do lots of videos then, and we'll be appearing on pods all over the place, I expect, and doing things on Scout, etc. So keep an eye out on that. For now, thanks very much for listening, and have a great summer, and we'll see you in a few weeks. So it's a goodbye from me.
Good night, everyone. See you soon.